It's going to take me still 1 or 2 meetings to get this right. But, okay. I decided it would just be easier to call everybody in this class Patrick. That way there'll be no confusion. Patrick Barry.
Yep.
Yeah. Jonathan. Jonathan, okay. Esther. Yes. Okay. Jackie. Yeah. Okay. Of course, you've all moved since last time. It's a free country. Don't move again. Okay. Hope. Okay. Kara. Okay. But that apparently almost is Mika with us today? Okay. Well, he is probably just a late drop. That's the case. Hannah. Did Hannah make it back from? Okay. Josh. Okay. Good. Nathaniel. I walked in with Andrew Head. Andrew. Okay. Nice. Okay. Paul. Yes. Great. Andrew Lamb. Okay. Back. Okay. So Andrew and Andrew. And Pam. Oh yes, that's right. And Ava. Yes. Okay. Good. Dan. Okay. Will. Yes. Okay. Jeremy. Scott. Step. Yeah. Okay. Austin. Okay. Patrick of the other kind, Robertson. Yeah. And then Powell. Yes. Okay. Liz. Sorry. And Clara. There. Okay. Good. Okay. Hopefully this weekend I can do some studying. There's a professor at another school, and what he does is he does these things. He gets a webcam. He gives every student like a 2-minute interview, and that would be really useful, but might be kind of creepy too. Okay, so what I want us to think about today, this morning, right, is that you've had a chance to read Descartes, you've had a chance to read Dicker. I want us to step back a little bit and think about some very general matters. And I want us to think about the fact that Descartes, the Meditation 1 in particular, the sort of area of philosophy that we're concerned with in Meditation 1 is the area of philosophy known as epistemology, right? And that's something that philosophers are supposed to be good at, right? That area of philosophy concerns things like truth and belief, right? Belief and knowledge, right? Right? And so, quite apart from questions about what exists, which is going to be metaphysics, there's questions about what I can believe, what I can know, whether I can arrive at truth, right? Say truth and falsehood, just to be clear, but implicit, right? Right? So we want to make some very general points this morning about those things, those concepts, and then apply them to the argument of meditations. Okay? So we are concerned, right, since Descartes has given us this project, we are concerned with trying to arrive at certain conclusions at the end of these meditations. But before we even get to those conclusions, we have to figure out, what's our goal, what's our target as such. And I want us to ask, or to make this distinction, which is a very general distinction. and that is between beliefs, which I'm going to say now are where we get true and false. Right? They apply to beliefs. Now, when we think about that, beliefs are, in some sense, just things. You might think, well, there aren't beliefs unless there are believers. Okay, if you want to go that way, fair enough. But then we just switch to talking, instead of talking about beliefs, we can talk about something else that doesn't necessarily imply the existence of any believer. What would be a substitute for beliefs, for things that are true or false, that wouldn't imply that anybody actually was around to do any believing? What would be a term or a word I could use to describe things totally neutrally? Yeah? Facts. I want to say no, because I don't think there are false facts. I think the facts are either true or false. If something is a fact, yeah, that means it's true. It doesn't. You don't have a further question. Could it be true or false? Yeah.
You say like statement.
Statements, I think, will be perfectly good to use. The thing about statements is some people think that statements are like beliefs because somebody has to make it. So can there be statements that nobody makes? Well, if you're happy to say that, then yes, statements is going to work. There's something that can go that's even more, as it were, non-committal than statements, even. So, but I think statements will do fine, yeah. Or we even know how. Yeah.
What about like a command?
Commands, no, actually I won't say commands because they don't belong to the category of true or false. Actually, commands are neither true nor false. Yeah, so what are the sorts of things that we attach true or false to? Beliefs, you might say, is too narrow because there are things that nobody believes that we could somehow state and, yeah. Ideas, he might even agree with you in some things that he says, Descartes, but ideas I think of as being not necessarily having the structure of, say, a statement. For example, if I said, here's an idea, justice. Well, justice isn't true or false, right? Or here's an idea, a phone that you can put in your pocket, right? Okay, that's not necessarily something that's true. So ideas might be just concepts, and concepts might not be such that we would say that they're true or false concepts. Descartes actually talks about true or adequate and inadequate concepts. So it may be that I'm just going to be kind of slightly nasty to the idea of idea and say idea on its own, not true or false. Idea in a statement or in a belief, that whole thing, the whole structure with different parts, that's true or false. So what's the simplest thing that has a structure that can be then true or false? Yeah?
A concept?
I think a concept, I'm going to put that in the same category. A concept is a fancy word for an idea. So there's something that's more complex. It involves or uses concepts, but isn't just a concept. It's got more structure to it. Yeah. Argument is a whole collection of these items. Argument is even more complex again. No, yeah, a thought, nice, except that might put us back into the category of beliefs. In other words, so long as we can have thoughts that nobody's actually thinking, okay. But I'm going to say the word that the easiest is proposition. And that's not very exciting, but sometimes in philosophy, the reason why we want to talk about a proposition is we actually think that statements might be such that we think of them as being in languages, like je pense donc je suis might be a statement in French, and we can translate it into a statement in English, but we want to say, you know, if I say Schnee is Weiss or something, I want to say there's the proposition, which I can express in English, you know, snow is white, or I can express in German, but there's like one proposition that those two languages are giving me. So proposition might be the safest term. But I'm going to say there's a way of making statements be propositions, and we sort of don't imply any staters, and we don't imply any languages. But proposition is safe enough, okay. But Descartes talks about beliefs. For the purposes of the argument, it won't matter, because he's talking about basically propositions that are believed by people, right? So in the end, it's going to come to the same thing. But I want us to see that that's nevertheless a distinction that we can make here in this class. Okay, so beliefs or propositions, I'm now going to say, they are true or false. Now, that's important. Propositions are things. Propositions don't do anything, right? So, you are not a true or false. You're different from your beliefs. Right? Your beliefs are things that are true or false. Now, here's what's interesting. Are your beliefs true or false independently of you? Patrick here. Are your beliefs true or false independently of you?
Independently of you, I'd say, yeah, they're true or false. Because in your head, you know. I mean, for yourself.
Well, you see, in your head, you've introduced yourself at this end of this claim that they are independently true or false. But my point is, if you think of your head as, or your mind, when we think of it, as being, full of all these different things, propositions, right? And the claim here is, oh, yes.
I was going to say, no, that idea.
So you think that those propositions in your head are not true or false independently of you?
No, because in order for them to be true or false, you have to have reason behind it, and you introduce
Why?
reason.
Why do you have to have reason behind the... No, here's what might be true. In order to actually have the belief, you might have to have a reason. But I didn't ask you that. I asked you, is the belief true or false, independently of your having a reason for it?
You're the one who reasons if it's true or false.
You are the one who reasons. But I didn't ask you about whether these things are the products of your reasoning. I said, are those things such that they are themselves true or false, independently of your reasoning? Now, I take it that they're not going to be in your mind, probably, unless you've done some reasoning about them. But of course, we talked about propositions that nobody believes. So we could just have it out here, right? Whatever the number is. We could say, is that true or false, independently of anybody believing it? Okay, Austin has his hand up.
I was going to say, what if you only believed in, like, facts, nothing but facts? And because then we established...
Okay, then we might say, all of your beliefs happen to be what?
Correct.
Well, if they're facts, they're true. So, good for you, right? All of your beliefs happen to be true, but I'd still be talking about something, a property possessed by your beliefs that was the property of being true. And the question is, are you relevant to the question, are your beliefs true? Does your reasoning about them, is that relevant to the question, are the beliefs true or not? No, yeah.
Well, you could think of a proposition that directly relates to your reasoning, and that's your proposition, and I think that has to be dependent on you.
Okay, so you might think that the truth of Professor Amanda's thinking right now, it's made true by the fact of the matter that I'm thinking right now. Okay, that's nice, because what that's saying is that the condition for the truth of a belief about me, or a statement about me, might be the fact that I'm... But that's, in some sense, still not interestingly relevant to the question, am I reasoning about that belief? Because it's just, think of it, in other words, abstract from who's having them. They're just things. And they're true or false, not because of people having them, or reasoning about them, or anything else. They're true or false just because that's... Now, what would be the relation of being true or false? Now, this is where epistemology gets really fun, and I'm not going to be able to do all of that today. But basically it is, this proposition, whatever it is, right, is true, right, just in case it's something like it correctly captures reality, right? And this is going to be the crudest possible diagram, right? Reality, the proposition about reality, right? So, take an example of a proposition that I'm going to just talk about as a proposition that's about reality. So, take as our example the state capital of California is, and this is why some people get this wrong, and I, of course, am a foreigner, so I could be excused, right? But lots of people think that it's San Francisco, or they think that it's LA, and of course the answer is Sacramento. Okay, you guys do all those 50 state capital things when you were in school, didn't you? Okay, they haven't spelled Sacramento. Okay, so point is, that's a statement if I utter it, or maybe you just want to say it is a statement. It's a proposition, even if nobody utters it. It's a belief if I hold it, and a lot of you guys hold it, right? Now, that is true just in case, the reality is that the U.S., right, is a country made up of all these different states, and this one has a state, and that's the capital, right? That's reality in some sense, right? So it's true if it corresponds to reality, and it's false if it does not, right? That's what it means for something to be true. Yeah?
So you're saying that beliefs are true or false regardless of whether or not someone believes them?
Yes. Yes. Exactly. I wanted to make the final kicker come, but now it's come, right? This is great because this is anticipating exactly where we want to be to ask another question, which is a different question, which is about belief and knowledge. So now I'm going to say, okay, the truth or falsehood of things is completely separate and independent of anybody believing them. Now, can you believe that the state capital of California is Sacramento? Absolutely, clearly. Can you disbelieve it? Yes. So, can you believe falsehoods? You betcha. Right? So, now you see that there's a complete distinction between the truth and falsehood stuff, right, which is a matter that's independent of you, and then the belief stuff, which is about or dependent upon, requires you. Is that Hannah for any chance? Okay, great. Okay, so you didn't literally just walk in from the airport. Okay. This is an important point that we want to make. So what we want to arrive at are things that are true, right? But of course, I can't how do I do that? Okay, only believe true things. Well, the things are true or not true kind of independent of me, so you're not really telling me I think to go and believe true things, right? I'd love if all my beliefs happen to be true, but what can I do about it, right? Okay, so that's not what meditation 1 is talking to you about in the sense, right? Of course it has the idea that what we want in the end are a bunch of truths in our mind, right? But of course you can't just set out to just have truths in your mind, right? You need something else. What you want is something like, okay, you only want to believe truths, right? So you have to have not a test for truth. We know what the test for truth is, but that's not going to help us, right? What we want is a test not for truth, but for what? If I have a test for truth, then it's kind of useless right now. What is it that I need a test for to make sure that I only get truths in my mind? Yeah?
Reality.
No, actually, not for reality. Yeah?
Falsehood.
Actually, no, because I have my definition of falsehood. It's that it doesn't correspond to reality. So I have my definitions of truth that corresponds to reality, falsehood that fails to correspond to reality. But that's not helping me yet. Yeah?
Certainty.
Okay, well, certainty is maybe the advanced kind of version of this, right? What I want is a test, you said for certainty. What I want is a test for what I should believe. That's what I need. Right? What should I believe? Right? That's different from what's true. Now, we want to, in the end, only believe the true things. But here's what's possible. Things that are true that I don't believe. That's actually possible. There are lots of things that are true that I'm never going to believe because I'm just never going to go there. Never going to be there, never going to, whatever. Loads of stuff. The amount that you believe will be tiny in comparison to the amount that you could believe. Okay? And in particular, of course, of the true stuff, right? Okay, so now we have to turn to the second part, right? So truth and falsehood. Now, I've cheated a little bit, though. I said that the definition of truth, or the understanding of truth, is something like corresponds to reality. But you might say that's only for certain statements, like, statements about the world. There is an interesting question which we'll get to, which is, well, what about this other? So that was some example from proposition Pn. How about this one? So just another proposition, right? Further along the line, the next, whatever it is. I think the example that Descartes gives was, I think I said 2 + 2 = 4, and he had 2 + 3 = 5. Now, some people think that's clearly true, but not because it corresponds to reality. So there is the worry that there might be two different kinds of definitions of true. One is that it corresponds to reality, and that would be what we sometimes think of as being truths that are basically based on experience. And if that's correct, we have a name for things that are true because they're based on experience. The name for things that are true that are based on experiences. Yeah?
Either empirical or a posteriori.
Oh, no, not either empirical. Oh, sorry, you mean the synonyms?
Yeah.
Sorry, synonyms. Okay, yes, okay, great. Okay, so a posteriori, that one, this California one is something called reasoning a posteriori, which is a Latin word that we'll use, expression. So it is a posteriori. Think of it as in post. It's after experience, right? A posteriori truth. Or sometimes you just say very quickly, it's an empirical truth. Actually, there are many more terms for that. Sometimes you say it's a truth of experience. But they're all basically saying the same thing. It is something that is true or false according to empirical observation or experience, right? Now, of course, you might know something that's an empirical truth because somebody told you. Like, for example, if I ask you, when does Cafe 77 close tonight? Anybody know? 2 a.m., right? Now, I might ask you, when does it close tonight? And you say 2 a.m. And I say, okay, now I know it closes at 2 a.m. because you told me, but I can go check. Okay, now, I can go see a sign, and I think I just got told. Okay. Now, this one isn't true because of, if I say to you, what's 2 + 3, you don't go check something, as in unless you've just been memorizing and you don't do any reasoning, right? You reason. So that means it's a different kind of truth. We call this an a priori truth. It's on the basis of just reasoning, or we might say something, if it's not an empirical truth, we sometimes will say it's an analytic truth. If you just understand the concepts or the ideas, then you know that it's true. And if you were to imagine a falsehood, you'd know that it was false, like 2 + 3 = 6, or something like that, right? Truth of reasoning. Or truth of reason, might be. Now, if you go to do an advanced epistemology course, they'll make slight distinctions between those two things. I know that. But for today, we're going to keep it simple. Okay, so a priori, think of it as being prior to experience. Quick mnemonic there, okay? So post-experience, prior to experience. Okay, so given that there is that distinction, nevertheless, I'm kind of interested right now in these ones, but more generally, I want to go back to this question. Strictly speaking, you see, mathematical truths are also true if they are true independently of what you think. 2 + 3 = 5. That's true whether you believe it or not. Now, you might think, well, who's going to disbelieve that one? Well, I think there's some really complicated ones in mathematics. People might not believe them, but they're true. Okay? Okay, so now I said to you that in order to give us something to do, it's not enough to tell us, here's the theory of truth. We basically have to decide, how do I believe? Okay, so now I want you to imagine, think of it like this, right? You've got, at a minimum, two possibilities here. Actually, let me just put it this way, and then we'll maybe refine that a bit. Okay. If we were to take Descartes' way of thinking here, we would say that what he's interested in is the following. in the Meditations. Being certain of something, right? Versus, and being not certain. Okay? Now, that's about, not about things. What's that about? What sorts of things are certain or not certain?
Beliefs. Beliefs.
No. Actually, you see, there is a way. Okay, fair enough. Somebody could talk about beliefs being certain. I think that's either a mistake or it's shorthand. Because what's really, yeah.
Wait, are you not certain or certain?
Well, either. I mean, what sorts of things are certain or not certain?
Not certain, like things that haven't happened yet.
Again, I'm asking this question in a way which is mildly deceptive. What sorts of things are certain or not certain? You might think that's unfair because things aren't certain or uncertain.
Truths?
No. Although, again, you could talk about this as a shorthand as truths are certain. I mean, if there's no people in the world, right, are truths certain? Okay, whoa, you're confident. Okay, well, if you go, okay, I'm less confident of that, but okay. I have a quicker answer to what sorts of things are certain or not certain, but yeah.
Didn't you say like mathematics or certain?
I think, again, you can use the word certain about mathematics, but that's still shorthand for something else. But you're right, there's a use of the word, sometimes gets used for why we say, just as truths, things are true independently of us, things are certain and something's independently of us. No. What are certain are people about things. You're certain about something. And you're not certain about something. So in other words, again, this is tricky, but you might think that those statements or those terms or categories are not to do with the actual items, but with your state of mind about those items. Now, this is pushing it a bit, and it's not going to be the case that I'm going to rely on what I just said, but I want us to entertain the thought that certainty, right, should be understood in terms of this sort of epistemological state that you as a thinker are in, as opposed to the actual item itself. Right? You are in a state of certainty versus you're in a state such that it's a not certain state, whatever state that is. So, the state of being certain is a state that's, I'm assuming, only possessed, or is only sort of, the only sort of things that are in states of certainty are thinking. Now, you might think computers could be certain. I don't know. That's another question for another philosophy course. Right now, I'm just thinking we all accept that at least rational human beings can be certain of things. Now, not certain divides up. Strictly speaking, if you are convinced of something being such that it's, there are kind of reasons for and reasons against, then how would you describe your state? I want to make sure I've got my own ways of putting this that are not sort of arbitrary. He calls it, following Descartes on this one, uncertain. And uncertain is an actual special kind of state to be in. In other words, you don't know either way. You haven't committed either way. And that's different from what he says, not credible. Now that's his words. I suppose what he means there is, you basically are convinced of this being false. So for example, here's what's not credible. 2 plus 3 equals 6. Right? Here's the thing you're certain of, and so we may end up saying this is what's the kind of opposite. 2 plus 3 equals 5, right? And what's uncertain? How many mathematicians do we have in this room? Okay. What's uncertain? I was thinking of Goldbach's conjecture, but maybe that's not, I don't know enough of the examples. Are there examples of things that are uncertain in mathematics?
There are, well, I guess conjectures.
Yeah, conjectures. Right. It's like Goldbach's conjecture. So, I don't give it the sum of every part. Anyway, the point is, there are things that are extremely plausible, but haven't been proven. And so long as they haven't been proven, they remain technically, for the mathematician, you could say, we're uncertain. But there are lower level uncertainties. Can anybody think of something that's right now uncertain? Now, of course, depending on your political persuasion, you might think, well, global warming, right? But you know, going outside today, knowing the way that it gets colder in the winter, so I'm less uncertain about global warming. But anyways, anything else that's uncertain? Well, say life on other planets. How about this one? The existence of God. Lots of people are in this group. They're uncertain. The existence of an afterlife. Uncertain. Right? Now, that's a modern malaise. Of course, in the history of the world, back in medieval times, and Descartes in modern times, lots more people would have put God up here. But very, very few would have put God here. But if you think of it, you can imagine, okay, you've got the atheist, the theist, and the agnostic. Right? Those are the three positions you can hold in the belief in God, or the belief in a personal God, anyways. So, these are the categories. So really, the interesting question for us is the uncertain, right, versus the certain. But I do want to make the point that, strictly speaking, not certain divides into the two. So what you don't have, correspondingly in the case of belief and knowledge, what you don't have is sort of a limit to the two, so you've got three. Whereas in truth and falsehood, we basically don't entertain the idea that there's a third possibility here. Neither true nor false. We've ruled that one out, yeah.
For something to be credible, does that mean it has to involve reason? Or?
Okay, now we have to explain what it means to something such that I am uncertain about it or that I'm certain about it. Here, what we're going to talk about are reasons. This is where we get to the active thing that you're going to be doing. So, if it's the case that something is uncertain, that means that there's a reason to not believe it. But since it's uncertain rather than not credible, there's some reason to believe it too. Right? So what would it mean to be not credible? No reason to believe it. What would it mean to be certain?
All the reasons.
Yeah, so positively, every reason supports it, or negatively,
No reason.
there is no reason not to believe it. Now, Descartes' view is this, and it's an important point that we'll see becomes relevant in Meditation 3. Descartes says, if something is such that there's absolutely no reason not to believe it to be true, and all the reasons in the world to believe it to be true, then you are not allowed to just say, but I don't care, I don't believe it. If I've given you every reason, and you've accepted every reason to believe it, and there's no reason that you have not to believe it, then you can't be some kind of dog in the manger and say, I'm still not going to believe it. Right? Yeah.
Can there be reasons that you haven't thought of yet?
True. And so you might think that when I said I gave you all the reasons, and there's no reason against it, that's not fair, because when do we ever know that you've got all the reasons for it, and there are no reasons against it? But if you became convinced that these were all the reasons, and all the reasons were for it, and there was no reason against it, and you said, but there might be, well, I've stipulated that there are none. Okay, so imagine there is this. There are reasons that you don't know as to why 2 plus 3 isn't always equal to 5. Well, it seems like you want to say more, right? Because it seems like if you just said, I might just not believe that, you're just being contrary, right? Give me some reason to doubt mathematics on this point, then you've got, but if you just sort of say, and it's even more absurd if the example is something that's not even an addition, but say A equals A. right? Or something is equivalent to itself. If I said, oh, but there might be some reason I don't know out there that makes that false. No. You got to give me a reason. Because all the reasons are pointing towards that picture. So, therefore, all the reasons support it, therefore I should believe it. Okay, so now, what Descartes is after is certainty. But I want to ask you this question. Can you be certain of a falsehood? Yes.
Well, couldn't you say there's no reasons to support it, and that's a falsehood? Like all the reasons in the world go against it, then you're certain that it's
Oh,
false.
I beg your pardon. Of course, you could be certain that something is false, but then you've got truth, as it were, because you've got the truth that this is false. I mean, could you be certain of something being true and it's in fact false? Yeah?
Can't you have reasons to believe something that is false? You believe that the reasons for are true, but those could also be false.
Okay, right, so you might say, you can have it happen in the case of it being downstream of something that you believe to be true that is in fact false. So let's say you falsely believe that today is Wednesday, so you falsely believe that, you don't have class today, or something like that, right? But of course, the belief that today is Wednesday is the false guy, and that's doing the work, right? So you might think, okay, I could be convinced of the certainty. Now the trouble is, what Descartes thinks is, what that really means is that you weren't certain that you don't have class today. Why? Because you weren't certain that today was Wednesday. What was the basis of your reasoning that today was Wednesday? If you say things like, well, it seemed to be that way when I woke up or something. No! You should not have accepted that belief. That was bad of you, right? So he thinks that really certainty is going to be okay, you're going to get it, so long as every single thing that you believed to get to that point was such that you had certainty about that. So he wants to, there is a quick sense which I could say, I'm convinced that I've class today. Oh, wrong day. But you, in his way of thinking in the end, shouldn't be saying that you're psychologically compelled or something like that, but not true certainty. If you have true certainty, it's going to be the case. If you have actual certainty, it will be the case that what you believe is true. But I want to leave, in some sense, that question about, the meaning of certainty so that it's always of what is true, right? I want to leave that for a second and say the following. We are convinced that we're after knowledge, right? That's what it's all about. Here's what is absolutely acceptable. Knowledge can only be of what is true. You cannot know that Paris is the capital of Germany. Doesn't matter how convinced you are, you can't know that, because it's false. So, if we are worried about certainty being somehow possible to have with falsehood, I've given a reason to think that it's not real certainty in the end. You might say, well, knowledge is only concerned with truth. So, Descartes' concern ultimately is with knowledge. Therefore, when we arrive at knowledge, we don't have to worry about whether it's true or not. We know it's true because it's knowledge. Okay, but now that still is kind of still just laying out some terminology. Here's what's really going to be the important sort of task of meditation 1. That is, we're interested now in what I should believe and whether I have reasons to believe it or not. So, we have to imagine all of our beliefs are in a kind of, well, you have to imagine 2 vessels containing beliefs, and then you're sorting them out, right? Descartes gives this metaphor. Does anyone remember the metaphor about the apples and the apple cart, right? He only wants good apples. He doesn't want any bad apples. So he wants a barrel that's only got the good apples. And so what he wants to do is he wants to tip out the barrel, right? Empty the barrel, and then put the apples in one by one, check them, right? That sort of way, right? So, imagine that you start out and you've got your things that you believe, right? That you believe, and things that you doubt. Now, as I said, Descartes thinks you can't put anything into the doubt group unless you have a reason. It's not enough to just say, well, maybe it's wrong. That's not enough to doubt. To doubt, you need a reason. So, what are the things that we believe versus the things that we doubt? Okay, well, here are some things that we believe based on what you read in your Meditations, yeah?
Is doubt not certain or uncertain or not credible or?
Okay, now I am sort of trying to sort of do this, but I may have just used the terminology here. When I doubt something, we're gonna say that when I doubt something, it's actually got the two different categories. It's got the stuff that is, I'm convinced that it's not true. I'm convinced that the reasons against it are insurmountable. Or I simply am not sure. It might be or it might not be. So if you want, you can say into that category, you're going to put both the stuff that's you believe to be unsupported completely, like 2 + 3 = 6, and the stuff that you're worried about, like global warming, existence of God, and whatever. Like, well, actually, existence of God is tricky because I think that Descartes wants us to begin by thinking that's in the belief category. So here you want to put, as it were, the things that you aren't sure about. Okay, and the things that you're sure are not true. So, with that double in mind, now let's begin with the things that we think are in the doubt category. Okay, well have anyone suggested a thing that's in the doubt category? At least maybe for the person at the beginning of meditations, what might be in the doubt category? You might be one of those people who doesn't doubt anything, you know, walk around. I'm a believer, right? I don't have any doubts about anything. Maybe, but like that's not a very good state to be in. So let me see. What was I thinking about here? Is it? Sorry, that Andrew Lamb. Yeah. Okay. Give me some things that you might say you doubt. Well, you're not completely convinced of their false, you just doubt them. Okay. Well, here's fair enough. You might be pretty strongly believing that it's not hot outside, but you might not be certain. So at least let's say that much. You're not certain that it's hot outside or cold outside. So let's say temperature. Or no, make it hot because that's declarative, right? Hot outside. You doubt that, but you know, you're open to the possibility that some freak weather thing happened. So it's not that you're absolutely convinced that it's false. I mean, unless you really did mean it, you're sure that it's not true. I'm taking it the weakest. Maybe you're sure it's not hot outside, but I'm taking it that would be pretty confident of you sitting in here. Okay, what about take one of the things you believe and just turn it into a negative? Give me one of those things. Right now, there's something that you believe to be true, right? But we'll reverse it and make it a negative, yeah?
That I don't exist.
Oh, no, that's cheating. You're giving the Descartes one. I mean just a basic ordinary one you come into, about, you know, the classroom, yeah?
Lights are off.
Okay, the lights are off, right, okay, good. Lights are off in classroom, okay. Now, it'd be very boring to give you the list of all these things, but we've got some things that are, you know, in the category of maybe, in the category of false, you don't believe them anyways, right? Let's say don't believe them rather than false, because that's the whole point here. Okay, now what about things you believe? Well, let's use the positive or the negative. Okay, lights are on in classroom, and let's add some things that are slightly more controversial, right? The physical world exists, or the extended material world exists, and also God exists, and also 2 + 3 = 5. Right? Now, here's what Descartes says. He says, there are lots of things that I believed when I was young, and now, years later, I'm an adult, and I've figured out that there's actually a reason to not believe them. Or even I believe they're not true. So they pass from this kind of, you know, vessel into that vessel, as it were. I've sorted them out so that they're over here, not here anymore. Now, I'm assuming that all of you have gone through this, right? Things that you believed once, you don't believe anymore, you're up in the air about them, or even you don't believe them anymore, you believe they're not true. So now, here's what Descartes wants us to do. He wants us to arrive at certainty, or if you're worried, he wants us to arrive at knowledge. Knowledge has to be true. So we need some sort of test. But of course, we know what the test for truth is, but that's not helping us. So we don't need a test for truth. We need a test for belief. What should I believe versus what should I doubt? What's a test for belief? Well, basically, it's what I said earlier. Yeah?
When you say that knowledge is certainty, but
I'm not saying that they're the same concepts. I think people think that they're slightly different connotations. What is at least true is this. Knowledge, in order to be knowledge, must be true. He thinks certainty can only be of things that are true. And so in that sense, he thinks that they come to the same. Some people might think that they can split apart, because some people might think you can be certain of a falsehood.
so like,
Yeah.
say you're in a school where, I know there are some schools that insist upon the teaching of like, they like have problems teaching like evolution because of God, etc.
Right?
And technically they're learning knowledge, but that could be false.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
well, okay. If they think that evolution is false, then they literally can't teach it. It's kind of bizarre, but I mean, they can, as it were, or but I guess you literally can't learn it. How about that? You can't learn. I mean, yes, you can put falsehoods into your mind, but learning is of what is true, actually. So in that sense, you can't learn falsehoods. You can't learn that Paris is the capital of Germany. You can't learn. You can have somebody tell you. You can take it up, but you can't learn it because learning requires that it be true. So I'm just using this as in case people are worried that certainty can be about falsehood, I'm saying that knowledge can only be about truth. That much we do accept. And now we're going to say, okay, what we're after is certainty, or if you think that's worrying, what we're after is knowledge. But of course, a test for knowledge is not the same as a test for truth. A test for knowledge is what can I believe and in the end have no reason to doubt. That's what knowledge will be, right? True, justified belief, but the point is it's the part that's justified that we're interested in today. So now I'm going to say, okay, what are the things that I believe and what are the things that I doubt? Now, Descartes is concerned to have, in the end, only things in this that are actually going to be the ones that are knowledge. He wants only knowledge here. But belief is different from knowledge, right? Because belief is true or false. You can believe true things, you can believe false things. So he wants to end up emptying this of anything that is either false or doubtable in some way, and only having in here things of which he can be certain or which consist in his knowledge. That's what he wants. So now, this is what we do. We have to start giving reasons to move things out of belief into doubt, to see if there's anything that survives this incredibly taxing kind of test. So, the first thing that we did last time we talked about was lights are on in the classroom. Well, that might be actually one in which maybe I should have given a belief that's a little bit weaker, because that seems strong enough. So one that would be a little weaker than that would be something like the tower on the hill is round. Okay? So something like, as he says, things that are far away, or if I asked you to identify an object on this, you might think, oh, it's a dust. No, it's not an eraser, it's something like that. Okay. So, okay. Imagine it's the first kind of doubt. I actually make this, I think I did a picture version. People tend to remember pictures or a visual culture. Okay, so imagine it's this. I'm going to draw little kind of cartoony boxes. Okay, so there's you. Okay, and there's a mountain, and there's a structure on the top of the mountain. Okay, and so, oh, look, there's a round tower, right? Right? That's what you believe. Now, of course, we know, because we've read the book, that's not true. The tower is square. So, what are we not going to have in our belief group? Well, beliefs based on, as we said, sense perceptions or experience where the conditions are such that I'm not close up to the thing and the conditions are not good. So don't believe things that are, as it were, because of the distance, because of the conditions, because of your own physical state of being sick or healthy. Don't believe things in non-ideal conditions. Okay? Okay? Don't believe things in non-ideal conditions. Now, he's not saying, let's be clear, that if you come to a mountain and you see something on top of the mountain, he's not saying that you know that it's false, that it's round. It looks round. He says, don't believe it to be round. Now, that would mean doubt it to be round. Right now you're going to doubt that it's round, right? And that's different from saying you know that it's not round. Doubt that it's round. You need more evidence. So right now you should doubt that it's round when you're at the bottom. Okay, let's say you climb up to the top of the mountain, right? And now you're standing in front of this. And now you're standing in front of that castle, whatever it was, right? Okay. There's a square tower. Or whatever, cuboid. Okay. So that one gets moved over. But let's say I had that one, or at least tower right in front of me. Or even lights on in this classroom. Is there a reason why I should doubt that? Not sort of ordinary, everyday kind of stuff, because you'd be in a bit of a pickle if you kept on worrying whether you were. Yeah?
Could be dreaming.
Could be dreaming. Okay? So that could be just a dream of yours, that you're standing in front of a tower, and there isn't actually any existing square tower. So that would mean you move from even in ideal conditions, right? Right? There's the question, no, because you could be dreaming. Okay? Okay. Now, the question is, okay, if I ask you about the lights on in the classroom, it seems that you want to say, well, I could be dreaming, so better doubt that. Okay, move it over here. Again, not that you know that it's false, just could be, therefore you doubt. Okay, now, what about, okay, but wait a minute, let's just say it's true that I could be dreaming, therefore I can't be certain. So instead I'm just going to imagine I'm dreaming, very boring dream, but I'm dreaming of this square, tower, right? It's a dream. What can I say that's still going to be such that I can believe it, even if all of life is a dream? Or, wait, there's a possibility that I'm dreaming now. Is there anything that I can say that's true? Or anything I can believe, even if I accept the possibility that I could be dreaming about it again?
At least some of it's true.
At least some of it's true. What kind of stuff is the true stuff of the...
The independent reality, where outside the dream world.
Right.
And you can assume that some of the content of the dream is based on that.
Good. So the thought is, there must be some kind of world or reality that is giving rise to the collection of images, shapes, colors that is my dream world. So even if it's not the square tower, some physical world exists with shapes and colors. Now remember I said, in the case of the Matrix movie, even though the world of the, whatever it is, 21st century New York was not actual, it was based on the actual world. So the thought would be, if you worried that you were in the Matrix or not, you could at least say, well, there exists some world. That's still true. So the claim is, with level 3 that you can have much less in your belief box, but you can at least have that one. You may not be able to tell me much about the physical world, but that there is one rather than not, you can at least believe that. Yeah?
Sorry, I had a question. So, just going back to colorblindness.
Yeah. Oh, yes, yes.
Alright, for example,
Yeah.
if you always believe green looks red to you,
Right, let's say.
your knowledge is that this is red, but in fact, it's not actually red.
Right. And actually, that would be a case, I take it, color blindness is actually the non-ideal conditions, because that's a problem with your brain if you take it seriously as color blindness. And so you have to correct for your brain.
But isn't it so that all knowledge is true?
Well, I beg your pardon. So, yes, what we're trying to get at things, we're trying to get to knowledge. We're trying to make sure this has only got the true stuff in it, right? If somebody says to you that this is, whatever, colorblindness is really about kind of red and greens, but if somebody says to you, your belief that that's blue, into which of those boxes would you put it? Now, normally before you walk into a philosophy class, you put it into the belief box, right? But after philosophy class, you know, shoot, I can't put it in the belief box. Because, well, now the professor in biology told me I might be colorblind. The professor in aesthetics said I don't appreciate the difference between blue and, you know, aquamarine. But now the philosopher is saying, you might be dreaming this pen-holding hand and this pen. And so if you said this is a blue pen, that would be false. So what you'd have to say is something like, well, even if it's false, or even if I can't be certain that I'm holding a blue pen, I can believe that there's blueness existing. Yeah?
Shouldn't it be possible that, like, there is no reality and it's just inside God's head and He's making you believe that there is some reality?
Yes, but that anticipates that's you flipped ahead to the page 4, and I'm asking right now. The question was of going back to an earlier thought, right? So I take it that colorblindness, you know, for a scientist is a phenomenon because of the brain that we can explain, and we can maybe mess with your brain, give you glasses, it'll work, right? But the philosopher isn't asking that. The philosopher is, what if you're dreaming, right? That's not going to help you. The idea that you can fix the brain, because that would be fixing the brain within your dream. So you have to be less committed. You have to say, not that there is a blue object in front of me, that this pen is blue. You have to say something like, colors exist. And maybe even blue and yellow are different colors. Because that seems to still be true even if, I mean, technically speaking, even if nothing exists that is yellow or it is blue, blue and yellow are different. That's just kind of a priori, or that's just reasoning about the difference between colors. That's not committing to the existence of anything. So basically, if you remove commitments to existence, and you just saying, there are colors that exist, that's this level, and colors differ between each other. Okay. Now, to anticipate a little bit, we said, but what if you could doubt that? Now, here's the point, though. Remember I said you can't doubt unless you give a reason. So it's no use you're saying, maybe there's no world. That's not a reason. That's just being contrary. So what do you have to give me as the reason for why there's no world? Oh.
That God is a deceiver.
Or, God, he says initially, or some super powerful being is deceiving me. So now we have to imagine, okay, maybe there is no world whatsoever, right? Now this is the point where you have to figure out, how do I draw? How do I depict the lack of any physical world whatsoever?
I think that's good.
That's good, just the empty box. I thought that somebody might say that. So here's the thing. So the physical world, we're now going to say it goes into the doubt category. God exists. That's trickier because we now want to say actually that you still might have to have something like another being. So let me explain what's going on here. We have to imagine that the world could consist only of two beings. Right? There is you I don't know how to depict that because you're not physical, no body. And there is, now, what we call him the deceiver. Could be God or just the evil demon, right? And the deceiver is giving you stuff that makes you think, right, that there's some physical world. But in fact, it's all just a big hallucination that is made by the deceiver. Now, the point is, Descartes does have to introduce an actual reason to believe that the world doesn't exist, or to doubt that the world exists. So he has to actually make that be a possibility. This has to be an actual possibility. And how does he make that? Well, he says, look, God could be a deceiver because I often make mistakes, and God seems to be doing nothing to help me. So God must be at least morally ambiguous. So maybe God is deceiving me about everything. That's his reasoning. He gives you the example of you've failed in the past, God could be doing this again. Or you could say, look, it's possible that there's no God. Right now, that's possible. Right now, I don't have a proof for God. Therefore, it's possible that there's an evil being, it's logically possible, who is making me think stuff when it's not true. Now, here's one difference between what I said last time. This has to be an actual kind of agent or a being. Because if it was something like, here's what could be true. Let me just, I know if scientists in the room think that anything in science will actually give you this. But imagine the following. Imagine I said, the human being is this complicated organism that responds to the environment, right? Such that, all the things, such that data comes in to the human brain. The human brain then performs this kind of function and out pops a belief, say, mountains ahead, right? Now, it might be, for all I know, that the brain has been created in such a way that it could give you false beliefs. For all I know, that's a possible kind of scenario scientifically. But interestingly, in that scenario, it's all physical. So we've got a physical world causally interacting with another physical part of the world, the brain, giving rise to beliefs, right? And so that's kind of possibly a deception if that were, mountains ahead isn't a good one because that actually has to be true, but there are various false beliefs that you might get from visual kind of representations, etc. That would be still a physical interaction giving rise to a false belief, if that's what's happening in science. And so if you believed external world exists, you'd still be okay, right? Because it was a physical causal interaction between a physical being, you, a physical world. So this one, there's no physical world whatsoever is what you're imagining. Nothing. But there must be an agent. Somebody has to be doing that, because here's what can't be happening, it seems. What can't be happening? This. I'll rub it out and that. Apparently, Descartes does not think that's possible. Why isn't that possible? You do it all on your own. Yeah?
Wouldn't you be somehow aware of it?
Well, one thing it might be, if I was making up the entire world all the time, yeah, I'd be aware that I was doing that, because it's kind of strenuous. But think of what that world would be like, right? So I want to walk through that desk, right? Bang, hit the desk, shoot. Well, I'm making this stuff up. No. No matter how much I try to make that desk not be there, it's there. So if I'm in control of this world, I'm doing a pretty bad job, because it needs to be. Now, but that's not the real question. The real question is, this is something, and you can't get it.
You can't get it without experience.
More than that, more than experience. This is a whole world that I've created with colors and shapes and all that. What do I need to get all that stuff?
Reality.
Yeah, you need something to be the cause of that. I'm not enough of a cause. I can't create all of the stuff that's in my mind. Strictly speaking, what he wants to say is, this is getting something from nothing. So what you need is something to give rise to your ideas. Now, if you take away the earth, or the world, the physical reality, which is what we assume is causing all that stuff, you need to replace it with something. And he replaced it with a deceiver. Now, why a deceiver? Well, two reasons. One, the deceiver is all-powerful. The deceiver can create worlds out of nothing. Because God, this deceiver is as powerful as God. So, can create an entire world out of nothing. Obviously, that's the creation story. And then can clearly, not just, how about this, right? Let's take a break from creating the world. Let's just create the idea of a world in this guy. Much easier task, right? Doesn't have to spend 7 days or whatever, you know. Do it easy. Make this person believe that there's a world. I can do it in about half an hour. Okay, so now, here's the point. Descartes does not say, you believe this to be true. No. Could it be true? Could it be the case that your entire life is the victim of a huge, elaborate deception by an all-powerful being? Is that possible? Right now, he thinks, yeah. So now, physical world goes into this category, goes into the category of you doubt it. And now, if God exists, well, actually, strictly speaking, you might think that one might stay there. But actually, of course, that's tricky because you actually are now wondering, is it a deceiver or is it the physical world? Because that could be doing it too, right? You basically don't know. And so you should worry about maybe there's a physical world and no God. But now you might think, aha, but even if I'm in this situation, surely there's at least one thing or one type of thing that I can know to be true. Right? Surely that's safe. Even if I'm being deceived by a deceiver, that's safe. I don't know if it's a deceiver or it's the physical world that's giving me all the other stuff. But you know what? The physical world doesn't give me that result. That's my own reasoning. The deceiver doesn't give me that result. That's my own reasoning. Therefore, I'm safe. Am I safe? Why not? Yeah.
Because the deceiver of the physical world could have given you improper things to reason this out.
So you could have faulty reasoning ability given to you by either the physical world or the deceiver. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Could make you that way.
Could make you that way. That's what I finished on last time, right? So now we see that all I've been given is a reason to think that, oh my golly, even this stuff could be false. So, should I believe it? Well, no. If I'm going to be a true philosopher, a true, kind of careful reasoner, this one has to go over here too. So what have I got in my belief column? Zip. So here's what he wants you to do. He wants you to clear your mind of absolutely everything that you believe. And that's like you're now the empty barrel, right? Clear your mind of everything that you believe, and the next step is going to be, is there anything that you can put into that belief column? Is there anything that you can have all the reasons to believe and no reason whatsoever not to believe? Now you might think, and that's a fair thought, that you think that 2 + 3 = 5 is a pretty good candidate for a good apple. But he wants you to initially think that that might not be so good, that there might be a reason to not believe that. But anyway, the point I wanted to generate is, this whole exercise is about what you should believe versus what you should doubt, what you can be certain of versus what you can't be certain of at this stage in the game. And strictly speaking, we're talking about what you should believe, not about truth. What should you believe? Because he didn't say these things are false. He did not say that. He's not saying they are false. He's saying is, whether they're true or false, we shouldn't believe them right now. we should doubt them right now. Yeah.
Yeah, because doesn't he still accept that the physical world exists for reasons like running into a desk or like?
He thinks that it's true that the physical world exists, but here's what he does say. He says, right now he can't prove that. Therefore, he's in the same position as all those people who think it to be true but have the mistaken belief that they have a proof. He wants to say, I know that I can't prove it. They don't. But now I'm going to give you, by the end of my meditation, a proof for why the world exists. And that's going to mean that we can put it back into the believe box. So all this stuff is going to go back into the believe box after you've got your reasons to put it back into the believe box, as it were, after you have removed your reasons for doubt. So in fact, the purpose of the meditation is to remove remove the very reasoning that got you there. He wants you to, in the end, he wanted you to empty your mind of everything by giving you the strongest possible reasons to believe that stuff to not be true, or the strongest possible reasons to doubt. And what he's going to do is he's going to turn around, double down, make you believe all that stuff, but now it's going to be impregnable to doubt. And you're going to get good old certainty, or knowledge, depending on you. So the point of this is to preliminarily get you to doubt everything in order to bring it all back and get you to believe it again at the end of the meditation. But now, most stuff I've written will end up being back in there. He thinks that certain sorts of sense perceptions might not in the end get back in there, but they're not going to be very important. The big stuff is going to get all back in there exactly as it was. Okay, so now, you have to now occupy this position that Descartes wants you to occupy at the end of the meditations. The position is this: not the world is such that it's just me and the demon. Why can't I say the world is such that it's just me and the demon? Why can't I say that? Hannah, why can't I say the world is such now that it's just me and the demon? And I know that.
I mean, I guess the fact that you can think means that you exist.
Oh, no. That's the answer. That's okay. You're anticipating. I mean, why right now is he not giving you any certainty, even the certainty that it's just you and the demon? Yeah.
Did he establish that it could just be you because of your reasoning of 2 plus 3 equals 5? Doesn't he say that that's something that like could happen independent of the demon, or did he say that would still fall under deception?
Well, okay. His point is that I don't know if even that belief is something that I should believe, or I don't have that proposition, something I should believe, because there could be a deceiver as opposed to the physical world. But you're right that one seems to be less dependent on the physical. I mean, you could say that the physical world could have created you such that it's given you kind of bad stuff. But the issue is not what I can know to be the world right now. What I've got is options or possibilities. He hasn't told you what the world is. He's told you, here are the possibilities. What's a possibility? Well, I suppose you could say the physical world that is deceptive versus something like the physical world that is perfectly correct. Right? That would be kind of the good version. But there's also the physical world where there's some problem, and more importantly, there's the deceiver who is actively making you have false beliefs. So it's not that you know it's you and the deceiver. It could be. Could be you and the deceiver, yeah.
Does Descartes argue that regardless of if the physical world exists, regardless
Yes.
if it is deceptive, that there must be a greater being who is a deceiver, or is it possible for the physical world to exist and there not be a deceiver? I mean, I know
Yeah, good. No, I'll take that point. So Descartes thinks that it's logically possible at this stage, or at least it's prima facie possible, for you to be an atheist at this stage. But if you're an atheist, you have to believe that there's some physical reality separate from you. You can't be an atheist about the world and about God. That's not for him. Now you might think, oh, but that's a possibility that he didn't consider. Imagine it's just me and nothing. And I'm making it all up. He thought that was too much power for you to have. But you might think that's the neglected alternative. It doesn't really matter because in the end he's going to say you can't consistently believe that as well as can't consistently believe in the other stuff. But so long as what you're saying is maybe it's all about me, like the possibility that it's just you and nobody else, right? That's a possibility too. So how many possibilities do you have? Deceiver possibility, deceptive world, non-deceptive world, nothing.
But if you go back to that third one where
Oh yeah, this one here, yeah.
but then you said that some physical world does exist.
Right, because I'm taking it that we haven't introduced a deceiver yet.
Right.
And we've also got the assumption that I can't do it all myself.
Okay.
And if I can't do it all myself, because dreams don't come from you, they come from the world, and you remember the stuff in the world, and you then recycle. So the dreams come from the world, in the end, and you. The deceiver would replace the world, and just have you and the deceiver. But there's something else and you, he assumes. And here, since there can't be a deceiver because we haven't got to that yet, it's a world. Here, it's a deceiver or a world. He didn't entertain the number 5, which is just that there's nothing except. Now, here's one thing which is interesting, though. You might wonder if it was just you coming up with stuff yourself and there was no deceiver, you might worry, why would I be getting it wrong? Whereas if it's deceiver, the deceiver's going to get you to have false beliefs. So this may be a worse threat than it's all me. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry. Last time you talked about the idea of product of chance.
Yes, and I'm taking it that the physical world is the kind of product. In other words, the physical world is just chance, and so it would be an accident, he thinks, if that would get you correct versus incorrect. So I have to worry between the physical world where it gets me false beliefs and the physical world where it gets me true beliefs. Because this is what I mean. Science might tell you this. You think there's solid stuff in this room, right? Is there solid stuff in this room if you're a scientist? Yeah, it's all atoms, or it's all quarks. The world makes you think that you've got solid shaped, colored stuff. But actually, there's no real color in the world. There's no real shape. I mean, you're nodding your head. Is this? Because I don't know what science tells you right now. Imagine science said, all of this is kind of a fabrication of your brain. Really, there's just micro, whatever it is, or energy or something. That might be that the world is actually kind of tricking you into thinking that there's solid-shaped things when there aren't. And that would be a way of saying that the world is deceptive in one sense. But I don't have to answer that question. That would be a possible. But of course, what Descartes could mean is something a bit more nasty, that the world is literally getting you to have false beliefs, not just, incomplete beliefs or kind of crude beliefs. For example, it might be that evolution gets people to think that they're able to do things that they really aren't able to do. Some people have argued that evolutionary theory makes you more confident of your abilities than you actually are. So the world is somehow making you have false beliefs about your abilities. Whatever. I don't know that it's the case that the world is giving you false beliefs or the world is giving you true beliefs, but he says since you can't know for certain which way, you can't be confident that they're giving you reasoning ability that's actually going to work, then you have to at least assume the possibility that you've got a physical world that's giving you false beliefs, in some sense. Therefore, since you can't know which of these two, and it might be this guy, you have to say, he would say, you have to put it into the doubt group. You don't know. You've got reasons to doubt even those beliefs. Now, I just want to make a point. So long as the deceiver is a possibility, you should be worried. That's all you need for the worry. In other words, I didn't have to write anything else on the board except deceiver. Because it's a possibility. You can't rule it out right now. Once it's a possibility, it is a reason to move everything over here. The deceiver is the reason. What's the deceiver? That's why you should think about moving everything into the doubt group. I've given you a reason. A deceiver is supposed to be completely consistent, coherent, possible, right? Not sort of internally inconsistent yet.
I think Digger brings it up, but doesn't he also argue that if this deceiver isn't all powerful, that the more imperfect he is, the more likely he is to create you who is like flawed and illogical?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. The deceiver is powerful enough. Now you might think if he's a supremely powerful deceiver, actually I think it's right now it's plausible to say if he's a supremely powerful deceiver, he can still deceive you. But if he's a weak deceiver, not so powerful, he can still deceive you. He's got enough power to deceive you. That's enough of a worry. Right now, that's enough of a worry. Now, we have to imagine, though, there's a deceiver and no God. Or God is a deceiver. Now, of course, the other possibility is, which would be kind of what Berkeley thinks, God is good and he's making you think all this stuff. But that seems to just make God a deceiver, so we're back to the same point, right? So, multiple options as to why I believe all this stuff. One of the options is that it's a deceiver. If it's a deceiver, therefore he will be giving me false stuff. That's what deceivers do. Therefore, I should now suspend, doubt. Oh. If you've got nothing in your belief category, why are you ahead? Why are you ahead of everybody else right now if you've got nothing in your belief? What is the one thing that you have avoided by having nothing in your belief column? Falsehood. You've got no false beliefs, guys. Yay, right? That's good. No false, because you've got no beliefs. So clearly you've got no false beliefs, right? So you can be very confident. Yeah, you might believe a bunch of things, but some of them are false, whereas me, no false beliefs. Yeah?
Wouldn't that be a belief?
Good. So the question is, can I believe about myself? Now, I suppose you might think, right now, I'm going to be so quickly moving towards having the following true belief, that he doesn't want you to spend very much time with this kind of supposed empty set of beliefs, right? So I suppose the question would be, if you completely have rid yourself of all your first order beliefs, could you have the second order belief, I have no false beliefs, right? Second order about your lack of first order beliefs. Okay, so maybe you have some second order beliefs but you have no first order beliefs. Good, okay, now the question is, we want to have at least one first order belief. And that's what's happening Tuesday. Okay, so what I'll do is this, I will send out a question about the end of meditation 1 or the beginning of meditation 2, a short question to be answered by class on Tuesday. I think I'll say, half a page to a page, and that's what we'll